Hey everyone, welcome back to Flourish in the Foreign on YouTube. I am the host of this here YouTube channel, but also of the podcast Flourish in the Foreign. Flourish in the Foreign is a podcast that elevates and affirms the voices and stories of Black women living and thriving abroad and explores living abroad as a pathway to wellness. Basically, this podcast and this platform helps you get, stay, and thrive abroad. So welcome to the YouTube channel. If you're new, hey, and if you've been rocking with me for a while, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about something that everyone always asks me. It's like one of the top 10 questions about living abroad, and that is how to get a job abroad. So people are always asking me, how do you get a job abroad? How do you do that? They say they've Googled, they've Indeed, they've LinkedIn, and they're just like, it feels like they are, I don't know, kind of like throwing their resume out into an abyss. And I'm here to say that there are plenty of ways for you to go abroad, sustain yourself abroad, and if you want to have a job abroad, that is no problem at all. But you have to be strategic about it. So let's go over some of the key things you need to make sure that you have done and you are doing to get a job abroad. Now, before I get into all of the ways that you can go abroad and secure a job abroad, be sure you listen to the podcast episode of Flourish in the Foreign, How to Get a Job Abroad. You can check that out at www.flourishintheforeign.com. Hit the tab that says episodes and you can find it there. There, I've actually compiled about 10 different snippets from past podcast guests who've talked about how they landed their job and the ways that they kind of went about it. So definitely listen to that episode for sure. So let's get into it. The first thing to secure a job abroad is you really need to understand what you want to do. I know that sounds basic, but a lot of people will say they'll do anything and they'll go abroad. And that's not true. And it's not helpful because, the internet is vast and you can find things to do. So that is not helpful. You have to figure out what you actually want to do abroad. Do you, one, want to continue what you're doing now, your career, or do you want to make a career change? That's a decision you need to make, okay? If you want to continue your career, you need to tap into your network and see who is doing something that you're doing or similar around the world. So, for example, if you are an engineer and you have your speciality and you have your niche basically, right? Maybe you're a structural engineer specifically for, hospitals or something. I don't know, I'm making it up. Right? And that's what you do. And you know that you want to move to France or you want to move to New Zealand. The first thing I would do is I would tap into my professional network and see who is working first in those countries, right? And what are their specialities? Because just because you're an engineer, certain countries and certain places may need different types of skill sets. And you want to make sure that you are not applying for things that people are like, that's great for you, but we have no need for your skills. So tap into your network that's abroad. How to do that? Join associations, join international associations for your specialty, for your career track. And there are plenty. Even if you say, well, mine only has a national chapter for whatever reason. That's okay because odds are there are going to be people who are in the National Association that are from different countries and that have contacts around the world. That's just how this global economy works. So that is the first thing I would do. I would set out to see who's working in the region that I want to work in and what are they doing. Now, once I figure out what they're doing, the type of work that they're doing, I want to then do a skills assessment and see do my skills match up to what they are needing in this particular country or region? So that would be an assessment of language, right? Do I need to learn a language, or is the professional language that they work in my language that I speak, or one of the languages that I speak? I also want to see, are there any credentials, accreditations that I need to do? Do I need to get licensed to do what I do in my home country in a different country? And what are the processes to do that? I also want to see, okay, if there are people in my network that are working in this region, I want to reach out, even if I don't know them at all, just to say, hey, you're an engineer, I'm an engineer, and I'm really interested in your work and what you are doing in France, in New Zealand. That is where I would first start. Now, if you work for a company that is quite large or has an international reach, I would definitely go into your company and I would see, where do they have contacts? Where did they have partnerships? Now, I know that sometimes it's a sticky situation because you don't necessarily want to say, hey everyone, I'm looking for a new job, I'm trying to get out of here. But the thing is that by doing some preliminary research and saying, okay, my company has partnerships or does this type of work over here, you can kind of be subtle and be like, hey, I'm really interested in learning in whatever they're doing in that region, right? I'm really wanting to learn more about that. Do you guys have some contacts? It's just something I want to do for professional development or just interests me. It's a great way for you to get some contacts, for you to start making the moves you need to make to go abroad. Now, once you've done that, it's really on you to really start understanding past licenses, past accreditations, language skills, things like that that you need to do the job. It's really important for you to understand what the work culture is there and what would also be the compensation that's offered in that region. Because, region to region, unless, maybe you're in a multinational corporation, compensation packages look differently. They're adjusted to cost of living and lifestyle, and it's just different. In Europe, here, the compensation may be looking different depending on what part of Europe you're moving to. Definitely a compensation package if you're moving to Spain, or as opposed to you moving to Sweden or some kind of Scandinavian country, is going to be different. So it's important for you to start understanding, what does that look like? And does that work with my lifestyle and what I'm trying to do? Now, to assess a compensation package, which I've actually talked about on the podcast with a couple of my guests, you definitely want to look past the number. The number is very enticing, but you have to look at it as a whole. You need to understand, what are my holidays, days off, health care, any kind of accommodation allowances, education allowances for myself, for my children. There's so many things to think about. Will the company basically pack up all your things and ship it to the next location? What is it going to be looking like? And does that really work with you? It's also really important, and I've said this in several videos, to understand what your number is. You need to understand what kind of expenses you will still have in your home country and what kind of expenses you think you will incur in your new country, and making sure that it makes dollars and cents or euros or yen, whatever. Now, to go back to work culture, you really need to understand the customs and traditions of the place you're thinking about moving, and seeing if that professional work culture really works, really vibes with who you are as a person. Some countries, they work longer hours with a lot of breaks. Here in Spain, I live in Spain, by the way, it's really customary for people to go into work at about 9, have a coffee break around 10, 11, have a long lunch, or even go siesta from about 1 to 4-ish perhaps, and then return to work and work until about 7, maybe sometimes even 8. So it's a super long day of having to be at work. Other places, they work in a much shorter kind of spurts, and also have just a different kind of work culture. I've had a guest who works and lives in Iceland, and they have a coffee culture, and they have actually built into their contracts time designated within the day for them to stop, have coffee, and just chat. That's just part of their contract. No one can stop them, and that's just what it is. And I remember speaking with her, and she told me how it was so strange. And she was like, what is everyone doing? You can't just like stop and work. And they're like, this is our culture, and it's also written into our contract. So it's important for you to understand work culture. So now I'm using headphones because Spain is loud and hopefully you can't hear the craziness from my neighbors. But let's continue. So it's definitely important for you to utilize the types of search engines that your particular region actually uses to find jobs as well. Some places around the world use LinkedIn, some places use Indeed, and others use other types of search engines and job posting boards, such as Bait in the Middle East. So it's important for you to understand where you need to be looking and where you need to be placing yourself to be found. Another thing that's important is for you to really understand what type of resume you need to even put out and how you need to present yourself, like your portfolio, your resume. That's really important because you might be shooting yourself in the foot if you just are putting out your, let's say, American resume out in Europe and it's like, we don't do things like this, or your American resume in the Middle East or in Japan. You need to really make sure that your resume is really customized to the region that you are applying for, and obviously for every single job that you're applying for. So I've actually had a podcast guest who is living in Japan and is an architectural designer, and her process of getting her job was way different than anything I've even experienced in the United States or Europe. She actually had to write out her resume in full kanji, and it was handwritten. She also had to write out her portfolio first in a one-page portfolio, again, full kanji, handwritten, and then a much longer portfolio that was also handwritten. So these are some of the cultural differences that you want to make sure that you are aware of so that you're actually a competitive candidate and so that people will actually take you seriously. It's really, really important. It's also super important for you to, I believe, invest in the results that you want. So if you need to get your resume professionally written for your specific region, and that might be professionally written for your industry and then professionally translated and professionally formatted for your particular region, you need to go ahead and do that. You might also want to register yourself with a headhunting agency that's used to working in your profession, in your industry, and placing people for positions that you're looking for. And these kind of agencies are really helpful because they do a lot of the vetting first. So they make sure that you are a great candidate, and they do a lot of the background checks and things like that. And so the investment is really great because the odds of you getting a placement become much higher because you kind of already go through the vetting process. Now, if you decide, hey, I don't want to continue my career, I actually want to do a career transition and I want to do something different, that is totally fine, but you still need to understand your skills and what you're bringing to the region and if they need your skills, right? So it's really important to do a really intense skills assessment, the things that you do. And I recommend an easy way for you to do a skills assessment that is really all encapsulating is actually take your resume and maybe some of the past iterations of your resume and look at each job that you've done and actually write out the day-to-day things that you do, because oftentimes on our resume it is a summary of what we do, and a lot of things that are really important and vital we kind of like sweep into the rug or we make really vague. It's really important for you to be very explicit about the things that you do, because these are the skills that people may be looking for from you. So it's important for you to not discount yourself and not to kind of play small. You really need to be quite explicit. Also, go back to each job position that you've had and really think about what were the specific things people came to you for, that you were the go-to person. And sometimes these are things that were not even part of your job description, right? They were just things that you were the go-to person. You were the one that can manage it, make it happen, or like to do it, or could do it best, right? Make sure you write those down too, because those are skills that you can definitely leverage and you can definitely market when you go into a different region. Now, once you've done that, and it may take a while, and it should, because it should be quite a long list of skills. You are talented, you are competent, and you need to make sure you recognize that within yourself, and so that you can also see that when you're going abroad. Now, once you have your skills assessment done, I would then look at the countries, the regions that you're interested in moving into. And I would be really, really discerning, right? I would want you to make sure that you're looking for places that, one, suits your number. Again, makes sense, makes dollars and cents for you. Working in the economy makes sense for you. So again, I'm here in Spain. The average salary here in Spain ranges from 900 euros to 1200 euros a month. So you need to make sure that whatever you're looking to do, the dollars and cents make sense for you in your lifestyle, for your expenses in your home country, and also when you're abroad. So once you've kind of decided which economy works best for you, I would then go and do an economic analysis. Look and see what factors, which industries really are the engine of this economy, what things are trending, what things are growing, and look at your skills and how that could translate into that industry. Now, this is also a great point in which to work with a recruiter as well, because once you've done the skills assessment and you say, these are all my skills and this is where I want to go, a really great headhunter and recruiter could help you really formulate your skills and your talents into another position, right? But that's also an investment. Working with someone who understands how to leverage your skills and your talents into a different position to go abroad and how to be marketable to do that. Another way to make that kind of career transition or even continue on with your own career is to take those skills and those talents that you have and leverage them into your own online business. That is something that I'm a huge advocate for because that's what I did, right? I live in Spain, but I did not want to work off the Spanish economy. It didn't make any dollars or cents or euros to me. So I decided to convert my talents and my skills into a viable online business that's target market is not the Spanish market. Although I actually have had clients that are based in Spain, they just happen to be expats. So I think it's really important for you to understand that there are so many ways for you to get a job abroad, period. So I've worked abroad in several different capacities. I first came to Spain on a sabbatical in which I was an auxiliar and English assistant for the first 9 months. And then I actually became a freelance writer for a business that's based in the United States. I then got promoted to a full-time employee, fully remote, with the same business based in the United States as a business strategist. And now I have returned to working for myself. It is totally possible. It's completely possible. I've even been offered a job here in Spain, in Barcelona, with a boutique advertising firm. And it's totally possible. But what I'm trying to say to you is that you really need to understand what your values are and what you need. The reason why I returned to working for myself is that I wanted to control over my time, my energy, the clients that I worked for, and the money because, hey, I got offered a really amazing position here in Barcelona, but the money just didn't make sense for me. And so I had to respectfully decline and move on. So these are some of the things to think about when you're thinking about going abroad and working abroad. Now, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'd love to continue the conversation. If you have gotten a job abroad, definitely put your experiences down below as well. There are so many things to talk about. I'm sure this will be like a series because there's so many things we just haven't even touched upon, right? Visa requirements, compensation, tax, there's a lot of things to think about. So let me know what you want to hear about next. Tell me about your experiences down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure that you subscribe to this channel, but also make sure that you've checked out the How to Get a Job Abroad podcast episode on Flourish in the Foreign podcast at www.flourishintheforeign.com. Just go to the episode section and you will see it there. Check it out and let me know what you think. All right, until next time, be sure that you are flourishing in the foreign. Remember, it is all about getting, staying, and thriving abroad. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.